Good afternoon, everyone. It's Coram Shreve here with the breakdown of the action for Wednesday, January 31st, and ending a strong January on a pretty weak note here, Ken, alongside some comments from Fed Chair Jay Powell.
Yeah, I think Jay Powell said, not so fast when it comes to rate cuts, and that spooked the market a little bit. So we ended near session lows, and it was quite a sell-off. Looks like a distribution day for the Nasdaq. Did find three stocks to talk about. Wanted to take a look at Royal Caribbean earnings tomorrow morning, but forming a nice base and showing uncanny strength. Also, Trex in the building sector forming a flat base while holding above its 10-week line, and Moody's, which is they publish credit ratings and the like. MCO is the symbol here, trying to clear a flat base.
Okay, great watch list stocks to be checking in on. We'll do that, but first let's take a look at those major indexes. Bearish day in the market. The Nasdaq down 2.2%. Harder hit was the Russell 2000 small caps down 2.3% on the day. The S&P 500 down 1.6%, and the Dow off by 0.8%. And not only did you have this Fed news, I mean, Ken, we knew this was going to be a big week. We had that, but we also have this digestion of some mega cap tech earnings with Microsoft, Google parent Alphabet, and AMD not turning in these stellar reactions, at least, to the performances. So a lot for investors to digest today.
Yeah, I mean, Google Alphabet was under pressure for most of the session. I mean, this stock, really took a hit. Their ad revenue was a little bit disappointing. It wasn't terrible; it just missed expectations by a little bit. And that was a pretty sharp drop. You could see 7.5%, right down to a test of the 50-day moving average. AMD a little bit better. That stock still fell sharply, but it did close off its lows, and it held support there at the green line, the 21-day moving average. But a tough day for Microsoft too. And this was probably the quote unquote the best earnings report of the three. The metrics were pretty strong throughout, but this was a pretty bearish outside day for Microsoft. Tells me this one could be ready to consolidate after we've been talking about a lot of these Magnificent Seven stocks being quite overbought, and Microsoft is in that boat. So you can see holding the 21-day line, but heavy volume decline today, despite what looked like a pretty good quarter.
Yeah, exactly. And so then tying that back to the broad market, we'll go back to the NASDAQ. Last week, we started seeing some stalling type action, distribution days on the S&P 500, and just the index is getting extended from their moving averages. This has been an eye-popping rally since early November, Ken. So to see us want to scale back exposure levels last week seems like it was a good choice here with the action today.
Yeah, we trimmed back a little bit on leaderboard. I mean, leaderboard basically performed in line with the S&P 500, so it wasn't a great day. But we didn't get any sell signals on leaderboard. We did cut ties with a Brazilian fintech named XP, so that puts our invested percentage about 90%, maybe a little below 90%. But overall, our leaders list is filled with a lot of strong stocks. Now it just we need to decide what the market's going to do here. You mentioned S&P 500. We've got a relatively high distribution day count there. We did see some stalling action where volume picked up in the exchange last week, but it was closed near lows and wasn't able to hold gains. So S&P still holding the 21-day line, and the Nasdaq making a test right now of the 21-day. So we'll see what the rest of the week holds. But I think the market was probably just a little bit disappointed that Fed Chairman Jay Powell basically said that March is probably a little too early for a rate cut. The market was just kind of thinking that was a 50-50 chance anyway. It's pretty convinced that the first rate cut will come in May, and thinks there are going to be several more rate cuts before the end of the year. So Fed Chairman Powell still a little cautious about inflation, wants to be sure it goes down to 2%. It's about 2.9, give or take right now. So he just wants to make sure inflation keeps going on its path. We have a strong jobs market, and that may not help, but we'll see. We've got a big jobs report this Friday, so maybe we see slack growth like we did in the ADP private payroll. Maybe that'll be good.
Yeah. And let's take a look at the Dow and the Russell. Here's a look at the Dow reversing off of a high today, still holding above the 38,000 level, 10-day and 21-day lines. And let's take a look at the Russell 2000, because small caps, we know, are the most interest rate sensitive here. So it looks like as of now, getting rejected, Ken, at that 2000 level.
Yeah, this actually the Russell 2000, even when the Nasdaq was down more than 1%, I saw the Russell 2000 was flat, maybe slightly lower. So if you look at an intraday chart for the Russell 2000, you really see the selling picking up the pace here. Yeah, I mean, this was, the index was like I said, unchanged, maybe slightly lower, even when the Nasdaq was down 1%. So kind of a rough day for the Russell 2000 as well.
Yeah. I wonder when Powell started talking.
There it is.
Always some clues there on those
Yeah.
intraday charts. And let's take a look at 0T and X, a little bit of intraday movement there, but really we just want to take a look at this on the daily chart and give me your take, Ken.
Well, I mentioned on IBD Live this morning, I was surprised at how easily it broke through that 4% level. You'd think a round number like that, even when it comes to bond yields, would have been a support level at least to hold. But, we had a lot of buying in the bond market that fueled this drop in interest rates. We had New York Community Bancorp, which really took a beating today. This is a company that acquired some of the assets of Signature Bank. They had to shore up their capital, so you can see the big drop here, and that fueled a big drop in the KRE ETF that we've been looking at on recent shows. But it was amazing. Just one day of damage here was setting up in a nice little consolidation. But you can see KRE fell almost 6% today, and right down to that 50-day moving average. So we'll see if it can hold support there.
And with the broad market now coming under a little bit of selling pressure, Ken, it seems like now is the time to be focused on, well, what are the stocks that are holding up the best during this time? What are the stocks that are forming bases versus the ones that are starting to crack and crumble under pressure, right?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Somebody was talking in the background. I missed what you said there, Ellie. Sorry about that.
No problem. I was just saying, now is the time when you do see the market coming under selling pressure like this, which ones are the ones that are holding up better, and which ones are the ones that are starting to crack and crumble under pressure?
Yeah, I mean, and that's sort of the theme in the three stocks that we're going to look at today. Stocks that are, that fell today, but are showing uncanny strength and holding up well. So, now is the time. We don't know where this market pullback is going to go. The Nasdaq not that long ago broke its 21-day line and quickly rebounded and continued higher. But what's different this time around? We've got a lot more overbought stocks out there. We had that latest reading from Investors Intelligence that showed bullish sentiment rising up close to an extreme level. That's a contrarian indicator. So there's a lot of yellow flags out there. So again, playing defense, but keeping track of stocks that are holding up and kind of withstanding the selling is always a good strategy.
Exactly. Yeah. And I'm focused on weekly charts and seeing, can my big winning positions find support at key levels on the weekly chart, or what are those looking like? Just taking that step back perspective that I know you're so good at doing, Ken. You're always telling us, you and Arnie, telling us
Well,
to look at
I
those.
wanted just to maybe take a quick look at Nvidia, which is a
Sure.
stock that we've had for longer than a year on leaderboard. And I mean, here's an example of a really strong stock. Yeah, it was down 2% today. Volume picked up the pace a little bit from Tuesday, but look at look at that orderly decline, holding support at the 10-day line. Actually closed up near its high for the session. So there's a lot of stocks out there still acting quite well, showing that they're still proving leadership. I put Meta in that group as well, which is going to be reporting earnings on Thursday. Here, that stock was down a little more than 2%, but still holding that 10-day line, and not really overwhelming volume to the downside. So still seeing a lot of good-looking stocks out there, but we're going to pay attention like we always do if we start to see distribution days start to increase. We did get one on the Nasdaq today. But not ready to declare this uptrend over. We're still in a confirmed uptrend, just dealing with a little bit of selling today.
Yes. Now let's take a look at RCL. This is Royal Caribbean up on the day. So bucking the weakness with a gain of about 0.9% in some above average volume. We do have earnings coming up. So this is the stock setting up, heading into the earnings report. So definitely one on your watch list, Ken, it seems like.
Yeah, definitely. And I just think it's interesting here when you look at Carnival and maybe Norwegian. The two other cruise line operators aren't acting nearly as well as RCL. And I just think RCL is you've seen really good growth in recent quarters. Obviously, business was really tough in 2021 and 22, but had a good year of profitability in 23. So we're going to be hearing fourth quarter results tomorrow morning. This is a nice setup here, forming a base while holding support at the 10-week line. They're expected to deliver another strong quarter. You're going to see it. Earnings are supposed to triple from the year ago quarter. I think revenue's supposed to be up close to 30%. So there's still a fundamental story here, and we'll see what the numbers look like tomorrow. We're not averse to buying stocks that gap up on earnings, and we don't know what Royal Caribbean's going to do tomorrow. But just a heads up, stock acting well ahead of results.
Yes. Let's also take a look at TREX. This is Trex. They make the wood alternative decking, and I'm seeing a base here on this weekly chart with some nice tight closes in that base.
Yeah, and kind of a turnaround story here. Good fundamentals. You can see several quarters in a row of declining earnings and sales, but third quarter numbers up big. Revenue up 61%, earnings up 300%, and decent estimate for this year as well. So kind of a similar looking. All three of these setups that we're looking at today are very similar. So Trex again just moving sideways after a nice little breakout, several up weeks in a row, and stock again down 2% today. Volume was pretty light. Still think this one could work. Building sector is still a pretty strong sector in our database, and nice base taking shape here.
Okay, and last but not least, let's go to MCO. This is Moody's. Tried to break out today and got pretty close to a round number at 400. Got turned away, but it looks like this one's still on breakout watch.
Yeah, I think so. And what I like here again is an accumulation distribution rating of A. So as this stock started moving off lows and it crossed the 350 level, look at all the volume as the stock was under accumulation. It was breaking out. Then it ran up close to 400. Now volume has dried up as the stock has moved sideways here. So 400 is definitely a potential resistance level to watch. It tried to clear it today. The market would not let it run, but pretty good fundamentals here. We can tell that a strong composite rating of 96. You've got nice acceleration in earnings and sales when they reported third quarter results. Earnings still 2 or 3 weeks away, but still a compelling growth story. It's not going to be a super fast mover like an Nvidia or a high flying tech stock, but you can see it's a nice accumulation phase, and this one could have more left. So I think it's one worth watching.
Great. Well, thank you, Ken. And thanks everyone so much for tuning in. That is it from us for today, but we will see you back tomorrow morning on IBD Live. And we hope you join us, investors.com/IBD Live for all the details on that, starting 10 minutes before the opening bell. We'll see you there. And we'll also see you right back here tomorrow after the close.